Alright, we're in a place called Heptapagan. This is in Greek. The Greek were here 3rd century BC or 4th century to the 1st century BC. Heptapagan means hepta, anybody knows what? Seven. Pagan springs. The 7 springs. In this area here, there are 7 springs that feed the Sea of Galilee. The long history, it's 2,000 years old. Name, the long name Heptapagan, and not too many people here speak Greek. The name has been changed from Heptapagan to Tabga. But the original name is Heptapagan. This place is also called the multiplication, multiplying of the food. Okay, this is identified here, where Jesus was followed by the crowds. He was teaching, preaching the crowds, and the disciples told Jesus, let's send people to the town to buy some food. We can live that day. So Jesus said, we will feed them. And they gathered 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. And they let them sit in groups on the grass. Groups of 50s and 100s. And Jesus made the miracle of feeding the crowds with only few or 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. They collected 12 baskets full of leftovers, and they counted 5,000 men, without counting women and children. Those days they never counted women. Sorry. Let me finish my sentence. Nowadays we count only women.
You got that right.
Are we fair enough? All right, so imagine 5,000 in addition to women and children. Identify the place. Why? That means more or less the whole town knew that this is the site. Can anybody come and pick up a different place, say this is the site? The whole town knew that this is the place. So early Christians identified the place. 350 AD, a small chapel was built around a rock, which is identified on that rock the food was and the miracle of the multiplication, or the name multiplication. Later on, 480 AD, a bigger Byzantine church was built. They kept the rock in front of the altar, and they built nice mosaics on the floor, containing fauna and flora of this area. And we are on the Via Maris, the road that connects Egypt with Mesopotamia. So people were affected with the Egyptian civilization. Here you see on the ground, in the mosaic, the Nilometer, an instrument measuring the Nile River, and since we are on the water, so fauna and flora of this region. The fish and loaves. You can see the 2 fish and 4 loaves of bread. Should be 5, right? Where is number 5? The holy bread, the Eucharist, on the altar. This is the philosophy. And make sure when we go inside, you see this mosaic in front of the altar. 614, you're gonna remember, you're gonna hear this here a lot. This church was destroyed by the Persians, as well as all of the churches except one, the Nativity in Bethlehem. I'll tell you why when we go there. So this was destroyed 614 AD. Surprisingly, 1930s, rebuilding this church, they found most of the mosaics intact. There were some broken mosaics. But 1980s, the broken mosaics were reconstructed, rebuilt, using black and white stones, color stones, in order to differentiate between the original authentic mosaic and the newly reconstructed nowadays. So, we're gonna go together. Inside is a place of silence. 5-7 minutes. Then we will all meet outside at the olive press. I'm gonna talk about the olive press. Then we go to the bus to visit another church before. Pressing olives. 2 stages to press the olives. First stage is this one, that's the ancient way, where this will be standing up, tied to animals. The olives will be here. When animals walk, that will be crushing the olives. Then they used to take the crushed olives. The second stage is different from place to another. Here, they put the olives, the crushed olives, the second stage here, and they put a big stone that press the olives. So the first press, where olive oil comes out into basins. So the first press is the, what we call it, the extra version, the best. Then they press it, they put a heavier stone, press it or squeeze it. That second press, were a lower grade of olive oil. And a third press, so different grades of olive oil, which is used differently. Now, what was the use of the olive oil for? Many things, a lot. Cooking, peeling, massaging, cleaning, soap out of olive oil, many things. No oil lamps, no electricity, oil lamps. So olive oil is very important in ancient times. So the olive tree gives and gives olives, gives olive oil, wood. Until today we use the olive wood, of course, for fire and other things. But when we go to Bethlehem, you'll see carving on olive wood, which is really a nice art. So the olive tree gives and gives a lot without expecting. So you don't have to take good care of the olive tree. You plant it and it gives and gives. So the olive branch became the sign of peace. Peace giving without expecting. And this is the olive tree. So the olive branch became the sign of peace. The olive is pressed 3 times. The agony of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Gethsemane. What does that mean? The garden of the olive press. Okay. The agony of Jesus 3 times. And the olive is pressed 3 times. So it's connected with the agony, symbolically, with the agony of Jesus. We might be running behind time. So we need to go to the bus.
Yeah.
All right, so we are at the seashore of the Galilee. We're in a place called Heptaphagus. What does that mean? Have you been here before? All right. More or less, we're on the same location. Heptapagan, Seven Springs. The primacy of Peter, Peter's primacy, not pharmacy, primacy. Or Mensa Christi, the table of Christ. This is identified here, which is mentioned in John 21. And this is already after crucifixion and resurrection of Christ. The disciples came to the Sea of Galilee and they were trying to catch fish. It appeared to them on the seashore, Jesus, the Lord Jesus. They did not recognize him. And he told them they were not too far. Do you have any fish? They said no. Told them, cast your nets to the right side of the boat. And they did, and the net was full of fish. They couldn't even bring it back to the boat. Then they recognized that was Jesus. And Peter put some clothes on him and walked. It was shallow. And they came here. They found charcoal fire on a rock. And they caught that day 153 fish. Then Jesus asked Peter, do you love me? Peter answered, yes, I love you. Feed my sheep, Jesus told him. And the second time, the same question, Jesus asked Peter, Simon Peter, do you love me? Yes, I love you. Tend my lambs. And the third time, the same question, Peter was annoyed. Why? 3 times. He remembered that. He denied it 3 times. Right? Simon Peter, do you love me more than those? Yes, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. Feed my sheep. And that's why it's called the primacy of Peter. So, this is identified. This is the place where Jesus told Peter, feed my sheep. Early Christians identified the place. We do have archaeological proofs, go back to the 4th century. A Byzantine church was built around this rock. So as early as the 4th century, this is the place. Logically speaking, let's compare it with the location. Now, when the disciples came back to the Sea of Galilee to fish, where would they be? Very close to the place where Jesus made the miracle of feeding the 5,000. Because this is the place they used to teach, preach. Jesus used to teach, preach, and people followed. So they came back, logically speaking, to the same place here. This is the same corner, the same area. And archaeologically speaking, we do have as early as the 4th century. And of course, early Christians identified the place. So inside this chapel, there is a rock which is called Mensa Christi, the table of Christ. So it is identified on that rock where Jesus had been with the disciples, mentioned in John 20. Yeah, in this chapel. It's a very nice and quiet place to touch the Sea of Galilee. It's a great privilege to go inside the chapel and touch the rock. A nice place to take pictures. Of course, on this side here, on the seashore, where, can you all hear me? Clearly? Yeah. Where the people, the crowds will be following Jesus. Now, I have a question. 5,000 in addition to kids and women. So thousands of people. How do you think they could hear him? I have a trouble with less than 50. And I have a mic. First of all, I'm not Jesus. And can you see the seashore? It's like semicircular beaches where it's like natural theaters where crowds could be fit and sit down. Jesus probably will be on a boat or in the center. Acoustic will be excellent. So if Jesus wanted to be with the crowds, where would he be? The seashore. If he wanted to be alone with the disciples, where would he go? Up on the mountain. Okay? So Matthew 5 tells us, and that will be the reading, I think, in Mass. The Beatitudes. When Jesus saw the crowds, he left here, went up, and the disciples followed him. Where Jesus told them, the Beatitudes, blessed are the poor in spirit, for there is the kingdom of heaven, and the Beatitudes we're going to read there. And told them other things as well. It is the place where he taught them also the Lord's Prayer, the Matthew 5 and on the Lord's Prayer. The first time, the second time would be Mount of Olives, but this is many teachings took place. This is where the Sermon on the Mount took place. You may have noticed here in the Holy Land, a Byzantine church is built, then a Crusader church, then so, but that's not the case on Mount of Beatitudes. Not till 1937. The mountain is known since early Christians. Some early ruins here at the foothill of the mountain you will find. But up there, the mountain is known. But 1937, the Franciscan sisters bought that piece of land, which is Mount of Beatitudes, and built the Chapel of the Beatitudes. They also took care of the garden, a magnificent, a very nice garden. A famous Italian architect, and you're gonna hear his name a lot, Antonio Barluzzi. Antonio. He's a famous Italian architect that built many churches here. One of the churches that he did is the Beatitudes, the Chapel of the Beatitudes. Nice mosaics on the floor. In his imaginations, the ceiling is made like heaven. And below heaven, below the ceiling, the Beatitudes are written in Latin. So the whole meaning is the Beatitudes that lead up to heaven. Of course, he used the stone, the basalt, the native stone here, the black rock, to build the church. The ceiling is made like heaven, the Beatitudes in Latin, and again the whole meaning is the Beatitudes that lead up to heaven. Make sure you enter the chapel before we go for Mass. Make sure you see heaven, be very close to it. Then I'll take you to the place where we'll have Mass. And after Mass we come back to the Mass.